we're graced today with Wegadesk from up north in Canada, and he's got an amazing story that we're excited to dig in on. And I would actually, this is what I was going to say, was I would actually like just, and it's a little selfish because I want to hear more about just kind of the origins of your name, and maybe even kind of kick things off there and let you roll from there.
Absolutely, bro. The name Wegadesk was given to me at birth. That comes from the Mi'kmaq Nation, which runs the entire eastern side of North America. When I was in my mother's belly, she was working in northern Quebec, very close to the Arctic Circle. And she was outside at night. And she said it went from nighttime to daytime like that. And she actually got scared and then realized, oh, that's the Northern Lights. And, she says they came down and touched her, but she's been known to exaggerate a little bit. But she basically named me, the inspiration was Northern Lights. And then I learned about how the spelling actually is with that language. And because there's a K at the end, it goes from a multiple to a singular. And so it's actually now Northern Light, or what I say is North Star. So that's I'm very, very blessed to have the name and try to live up to it as much as I can.
Absolutely.
Get rid of the weird notifications popping up. Apologies. Yeah,
no worries.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You are a little quiet on my end, and I don't know if that's going to be like that for the recording as well. And if I'm a little quiet too, please let me know and I'll speak up.
You sound great. You sound very closely. I sound the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I just got I got a new mic that
gotcha.
I'm very excited about. That it does the trick. It should be as crystal clear as I've ever been.
Awesome, bro. Good.
So, where do you want to start on experience side and kind of just the lead in on that front? I'll kind of let you take the reins there.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Let's keep it going with the North Star idea. The North Star, traditionally was the celestial object that never moves. So individuals traveling would use it as a reference point. And, we have that saying, he knows where his true north is, or the, just a good moral compass. And so in my life, I'm kind of like extra innings, so to speak, I was my father's 13th child and my mother's first. So you can imagine the difference in the two of them. And I think it was that massive difference in genetics that have caused me to have extreme highs in my life and extreme lows. Absolutely. And because we're here talking about plant medicines and healing and that kind of stuff, it's important for the listeners to know that a big part of my life, since I was 10 years old, I was a national champion high diver. And I trained 7 hours every day, became very good. And one of the issues was that there's a group of adults grooming and taking advantage of children, both sexually and in other ways as well. And being the star athlete of this national team, I was targeted, I was groomed and abused. And the process for these criminals to make sure they don't get caught is to make their victims so confused, so sick that they'll never be able to heal and prosecute them and find justice. And so I was groomed and abused to be a sex slave for a bunch of sick people. It's absolutely insane. And there's no way I could have come back from that deep, dark hole that they put me in unless my prayer was answered. And I didn't even believe in prayers at the time. I didn't even have a concept of God, because what had happened to me was like, oh, there's no way a God exists if this is what's going on earth. And so
Absolutely.
I finally recognized at one point in my life, this was around 2011, when, the Mayan calendar was saying that the world was going to end. And I'm sure that inspired a lot of people to kind of do some spiritual research. What do you mean the world's going to end? What does that mean? And so one of the prayers that I said after recognizing that I didn't know a right choice from a wrong choice was, God, guardian angels, if you exist, please, can you send me guidance and make the volume so loud that I can't ignore it? And
Absolutely.
it was through that healing process that many things happened. And one of the things that happened was a 5-MeO DMT ceremony that I did. And
Absolutely.
it came to me out of the blue. I was visiting a friend on a remote island, Salt Spring Island. Another friend called me and said, hey, I just connected with this woman. You got to connect with her. So I texted her, called her. 10 minutes later, I was in her car and we were driving out into the woods talking about purification and at that point, actually abstinence, abstaining from sexual activities. And I was actually at about the 30-day mark of my first
Absolutely.
30 days of no drugs, no alcohol, no pornography. I'd been kind of cultivating my own honest effort to start ridding myself of the poisons that I was fed and cultured to use by these very sick adults that had taken advantage of me. And so we finally arrive at our destination. We're kind of out in the woods. And as we're getting out of the car, she's like, oh, by the way, this thing is $300. And I'm like, $300? I don't even know what we're doing here. And she says, oh, you don't? Okay, well, we're doing ceremony here. And I'm going to have to tell the doctor that you're a longtime friend of mine. Otherwise, he won't do it with you. Everybody that's here has done it at least 10 times. This is a very advanced thing. And I was like, well, sure. And inside, I'm kind of like, well, I'm not doing drugs and I'm not doing all that stuff. So, but I'm like, I'm there. So in we go. And there's a bunch of people there. And yeah, I'm friendly. Everybody's cool. And then the doctor comes out and gives me a big hug. And the lady that brought me gives me a video camera and says, here you go. You can, put yourself to work since you're not paying to be here. Then you can film people do their ceremonies. So they go out into the backyard and a few people go ahead of me, and it's all everything from laying down and not doing anything to one woman was wailing. She's, just like really letting something out. And then it was my turn to go. And if you walk out of the house, there's kind of like looking into the trees, but I noticed that the moon was behind me. So I asked, can I do this facing the moon? So we turn around and we face back towards the house where a bunch of people are watching. They're kind of making a half circle around us. And we take the medicine in, and it felt like somebody pulled a rug out from under me forward, and essentially my feet would have gone straight up into the sky. And the next thing I know, it is pure love, pure bliss, no boundaries. So much so that I take off all my clothes, and I don't even remember taking off all my clothes, but I got absolutely butt naked and was just face down in the grass. And what I was experiencing at that time was like hugging the earth, because there was so much love and so much appreciation that I just gave the earth a big hug. And then I kind of like start feeling these amazing feelings, and I stand up and I'm watching vortexes swirling around my arms and my body. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I do a backflip. And from my training, I can do a backflip. And so boom, I land, and I notice that there's all these like flares of color outside of me. And then I'm like back inside my body, enjoying the experience. And then I'm like, oh, what were those colors outside? And my attention goes outside. And then all the people start materializing, and I'm naked in front of a bunch of strangers. And I'm like, oh, sorry, guys. And I like grab my clothes. I'm like, sorry, I didn't mean to put anybody out. And I went and meditated under a tree for 15 minutes. And one thing that I had recognized is if you can go inside your body and do 12 deep breaths, your entire emotional palette is cleansed. And so I did those 12 deep breaths. I came back inside to the house and I was like, yo, sorry guys, I really didn't mean to offend anybody or put anybody off. And one of the old ladies was like, honey, when I saw you do that flip, I said, give me whatever he's smoking. So that was a really, really profound experience. And I do have to say that at that time, I was reading the Bible. And when I recognized I was naked, and the whole scene, like the whole love and appreciation and gratitude, all this like super, super high vibration, emotions stopped. And I had literally probably that week read in the Bible that Adam and Eve, they eat the forbidden fruit, they notice they're naked, cover themselves, and then get the boot. And so that really stuck with me. And as I watched the doctor do other ceremonies with other people go down, they lay down when they do this stuff. And then he's watching them to see what's their facial reaction, what's their body motion. And he's got a whole bunch of like ancient sounds that he uses to help guide them deeper and deeper inside of themselves. And I think the idea is that there's a lot of gates and a lot of security features to keep us as the I am, the Wegadesk, out of those deep, deep, deep parts of ourselves, because most likely if we spend too much time there, we might cause a ruckus. We might get into, disturbing the cell division and the cleaning processes and the oxygen transfer. All that stuff's obviously got to be very well guarded against who we are. But through these plant medicines, I do believe that we travel inside. As much as we feel sometimes like we travel through the space and everything, I think it's a travel inside. And depending on how much innocence you carry with you and how much guilt you've let go, that will determine how deep you can go. And if you're with a really great facilitator, I believe they can help you go super, super deep. And that will help you feel what I believe is at the core of every human being is an angelic energy source. And so, that was my very first experience. I had no idea what it was. And boom, that happened. And then I went back to living my life. And this was prior to me really addressing the abuse that I went through, both personally and publicly. And the guy that abused me was the head coach of the Canadian national diving team, who had actually been protected for over a decade. So that experience came to me. It filled me up with so much love. And without even recognizing that experience helped me do the things that I've done since then. I'll tell you, since that experience, I've come forward publicly. I've prosecuted and convicted that abuser. Other athletes have come forward as well. We're still uncovering this group of individuals, nothing short of hero work, and at one point prior to me being the hero that I am today, I was a criminal. Plain and simple, the things that these people coached me to become were criminal, sick, a bad person, so to speak, or at least a good person, but constantly doing bad things. And I think that's really more of a true sentiment, is that they really coached me to do bad things. And this experience came to me out of the blue. And lo and behold, since then, I've gone on this miraculous healing journey that I have to give credit to that. So if you have any questions about that, any things that come to mind that you want to cue in, I'd love to hear from you now. And then we can talk about the subsequent ceremonies that I've been a part of, if you're interested.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we just want to stick on the first cult transformative experience there. So if I'm understanding you correctly, this thing came out of the blue, out of left field. So you essentially were just almost along for the ride. Oh, hey, I trust who's saying that I should participate, who I should go through this experience, and kind of going into it with almost no intention and just, hey, let's see what's in store here. Is that kind of the vibes going into it?
Absolutely. And I think trust is a really good word to use. The energy that I got from the doctor when he came in was so beautiful, was just like trusting. And I was just totally along for the ride. I had no plans to do it. I didn't even know what it was when I did it. And what I've come to learn about these types of medicines now is our bodies have what I call security features. Again, for our consciousness and who we are as the I am to go deep inside, there are these gates. And sometimes the security features will get triggered and the gate will shut and push us out. And what also helps to trigger those, which I don't think we want, is our demons. Our demons will be like, oh, he's about to experience this. We've got to keep him out. We've got to make him scared. We've got to make him suspicious. We've got to make him, and so then you shut down and no, I don't want it. And I want to remind you that I was in pure bliss. And then all of a sudden I was feeling shame. I was naked in front of strangers. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, everybody. And the experience came to a grinding halt immediately with that. And so whatever is going on with whoever is listening, considering doing these things, I really encourage you to either get all the way in or all the way out, because you're only going to waste your own time and the medicine as well, and the people that are helping facilitate you, if you're not like, this is 100% for me. And I'll also say, if you're curious about it, it's 100% for you, plain and simple. Yeah.
There's a lot of the times then I totally agree with that. Totally saying, man, how could this not be for everybody?
Yeah.
Totally. All the time. And so then again, you had mentioned that you were watching others go through this experience. So you almost kind of had the, you're at the bottom of the lineup. You're watching everyone else go up there and swing the bat. What's going through your mind, like expectation wise, as it's kind of leading up, and then, hey, it's your turn. Was there did that almost, turn you off, or was it kind of like, oh, I kind of see what's going on here? Like, how was that part of the experience?
I have to say that at that point in my life, I was very out of control. I had so much trauma and so much dysfunction within me that I was, with a lot of my life, just along for the ride. And at that point, when I got there and I gave the doctor a hug and I started seeing people doing what they're doing, it didn't turn me off at all to see people, screaming and wailing away and, and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed like, honestly, divine inspiration, divine plan, divine influence to have me do this, because as I watched these other people, it's kind of like nothing's really going on in my head. I was kind of like a bit of a zombie and just kind of like, okay, well, we'll see what happens, yeah.
Interesting. And the whole experience, then you smoked it?
Yes.
So once you smoked it, the whole experience is 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long it was, but from what I know now about that type of medicine, and even to use the word medicine, is a bit of a misnomer, in my opinion, because what it actually is a technology. And it's no wonder why the Crown Corporation went all over the world massacring medicine keepers and shaman, because this is technology, the same way a computer allows us to communicate and do things that we can't do with just our, the things within our skin. This is a type of technology that is for our benefit. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I've heard about people having bad trips, not with this type of medicine. In my opinion, the 5-MeO DMT is the Ferrari of psychedelics. You're there and back in 15 minutes. They actually call DMT the businessman's trip, because you can
That's right.
on your work days, you have some DMT at lunch and be back at work 15 minutes later. And there's no headaches. There's no, the most difficult part about this, this particular technology is that when you go to wherever you go, it's so brilliant. It's as if you're in the presence of gods, and what I personally believe to be the earth gods, not really the heavenly gods. These are like, the energy is very grounding, very centering, very like heavy and royal. And then you come back to this world, and what I say is you're more capable to detect poison. You're also less likely to put up with the poison because you feel so much love for yourself again. You're like, wow, I really am this special. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to go out drinking with you. And in fact, I'm done drinking myself, because you're just not willing to put yourself through the kind of like haze that we're in, where we're just, oh, sure, we'll do this. Like I say, when I was waiting and watching these other people do this medicine, I'm just like kind of along for the ride. There's no real filter of how special I am. And wow, I'm going to smoke drugs with strangers, like that really, for the most part, isn't a good idea. I don't advocate for that, but I do advocate for every individual using and considering their own intuition, because inside of us is where we will always get the best guidance.
I like that. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there. And one more question that I'm just curious, it might just be yes or no, but during that first experience, did you see your experience with that phenomenon of the machine elves or the DMT entities that a lot of people talk about?
Yeah, so there was a very evident two characters. I felt like they were saying, oh, he remembers. Oh, he's, that's it. Those are really the only words that I can put into it, is, oh, he remembers, and so that first experience, man, was so awesome. And then it stopped so fast that like everything that I've told you is really all there is to it. Now, if you would like, I can also tell you a little bit more about my experience, with like my subsequent experiences with that, if you're interested.
Absolutely. And I think as you share, and as much as you want to share about that, I'd be curious in the context, just curious to learn the context of, so you had this first transformative experience, then almost kind of like a, what happens next kind of scenario. How do you start processing things differently? What kind of, and we call it, I think a lot of people are now calling it integration, right? How do you start integrating that into your life? And then And then, yeah, absolutely. How does that lead you into subsequent ceremonies or experiences, and how has that now become part of your transformed life?
Yeah. Okay. Great way to do it. So because that experience was not planned and there was no oh, this is going to be good for you. I didn't even know that the experience was good for me or bad for me. But when I went back to my life, and actually maybe just prior to this ceremony, I had again said that prayer, please guidance. And I had also asked for wings. I said, please God, give me wings. I really want wings so that I can fly, so that I can be free. And so then after the ceremony, going back to my life that was very dysfunctional and not very healthy, there were a couple major topics that came into my life. First and foremost was sacred geometry. And most importantly was the flower of life. And actually, funny enough, I didn't even plan this, but doing art became a huge passion of mine.
Whoa, I love
and
that.
This image, the flower of life, is very easy to make. These are just little miniatures that I've made.
Uh-huh.
I've made huge ones. I've made thousands of these because as somebody who had a lot of bad habits, I didn't know at the time, but in order to put a bad habit down, it'll help you to pick a good habit up. And so I was online on YouTube, and this was, back when YouTube was fairly new, 2011-ish. I was looking at Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, these massive ancient structures that were kind of like, how'd they build those back there? Like ropes and pulleys? I don't think so. And then seeing the flower of life laser inscribed at one of the temples in Egypt. And I was like, oh, you know what? That might be the signature of the builders. So I looked up the flower of life, and the overall consensus was you can study all you want, but until you do your own, you're not going to get the full meal deal with this stuff. And given that I had invested in the idea that the guys that built the pyramids knew about the flower of life, I was like, hey, I want to get the full meal deal here. So for $20, I went to Staples, a office supply store. I bought a geometry set, some colored pens, and a stack of white printer paper. And I put it on my desk, my table, and I literally did thousands of these where you just make the flower of life and color them in. And I listened to audio files while I would do my art. Of the most influential for me was a guy named Manly P. Hall. Manly Palmer Hall. He has over 200 lectures on YouTube. He's written many, many books. He's quite a famous guy. If you don't know about him, his lectures, he's dead now, but he inherited a library of rare books and then started the Philosophical Research Institute around this library. And every Thursday he would give a lecture. And so they recorded them and have uploaded them online. So I was both getting my bad habits were starting to evaporate with this art. And I was soaking up a lot of good knowledge from Manly P. Hall. Another great guy to listen to is Rudolf Steiner. He's one of the voices for the Anthropomorphic Society, which is all about spiritual science and evolution beyond the physical realm. And so that was a huge thing for me, was letting go of the addictions that I had and picking up something positive. I also mentioned the wing makers. For those of you who are interested in the wing makers, they claim to be the only humans to develop. They make it so far into the future, they develop time travel capabilities, and they come back in time and help humanity get over hurdles that they couldn't get over otherwise. And in the late 80s, early 90s, a guy named James came forward with all this information, said, this isn't mine, but I need to publish it. And the Wingmakers, check their website out, wingmakers.com. They've got art, music, philosophy, stories, any which way the human brain works. They have topics and discussions to just open you up to it. And so they contacted me when I was in deep, deep, deep meditation, just around the same time where I said, okay, I'm finally going to address the sexual abuse that I went through by my coach. And actually, before I had told anybody, I told my mother. And this was years after I had retired. I was trying to move on with my life, and I could not get successful in anything. I started building things, and then they'd all collapse. And then I'd start building, and they'd all collapse. And so then finally I realized, wow, I must not know a right choice from a wrong choice. God, guardian angels, and I said that prayer asking for guidance. Then I told my mother, and for 9 months, every time I saw her, she was like, you have to keep dealing with this. Don't just, tuck it away. You have to. And I would be like, Mom, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm trying to move on with my life. I don't want to tell people that I was sexually abused by a guy. I don't want to. And for 9 months, in fact, I even wrote her a letter because every time she saw me, she would ruin my day. Until finally, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe she's right. I'm open to dealing with this. And that week, the coach came from the other city he was living in at the time back to Victoria, my hometown. And I was like, okay, I guess this is, God bringing me this problem to deal with. I started a really miraculous process that, again, I've said, contributed to taking this guy off of the national team, saving a bunch of kids, not just in our timeline, but potentially all the future timelines that this guy was running amok with. But at that time, the journey of addressing my problems, addressing the dysfunction, we are so adverse to, no, I'm just going to go over here and enjoy my day. When really it's like that dysfunction needs our attention. And also what makes us turn away from it is we don't know how to deal with it. I start trying to identify something in the dark. And so we're just like, oh, I'm not even going to bother try to identify it. I start to just spend time with it. So what I did was I said, you know what? I don't have any idea how I can deal with this, but I'm just going to deal with it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to meditate. I'm just going to be inside the body. Eckhart Tolle's audio discs on the 3 gateways: gateway of silence, gateway of body, gateway of now. They were all just like, be in the body, relax the body, breathe, be in the body. And while I was in a deep, deep, deep meditation, I had 3 philosophies come to me. Acknowledge everything as a part of God's plan. Never point outward and say, oh, that shouldn't be like that. That's bad. It's all a part of God's plan. Just appreciate it for that. If you can't understand how it's good, just say it's faith and, you hope that it gets better. The other one, nurture life everywhere. Wherever you go, just be supportive, be happy, be constructive. And the other one was strengthen connection to Creator through gratitude. Connection to Creator through gratitude. And these 3 came to me while I was deep in meditation around this time that I was dealing with this massive monster in my life. And then when I was researching the Great Pyramids, Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, sacred geometry, the flower of life, another suggested viewing on my YouTube channel was a military guy has an accident and time travels or something like that. So I click on it. I listen to it. It's a military guy. He says he was doing an exercise. He got a concussion. He was in a coma for 2 weeks or 2 months and ended up having memories of 2 years of living in the future. And so he was living in the year 2750 or something. And in that timeline, all the cities are benevolently governed by an organization called the Wingmakers. So separately to YouTube, I went on Google and researched Wingmakers, and boom, lo and behold, came this website, wingmakers.com. So I went and I looked in. One of the spots is philosophy. And so I looked up the philosophy. Those 3 philosophies were in there word per word, almost word per word. The expressions were identical. And so that's why I tell people about the Wingmakers, because I got that information before I saw it online. And there's also another great story, the Ancient Arrow Project, I encourage people to read about from the Wingmakers. And they have Wingmaker music on YouTube. That's another thing I listened to a lot of as I did my Flowers of Life, is Wingmaker music online on YouTube. So as I started healing, I stopped doing a lot of the criminal stuff that I was doing. And as I started releasing myself from the criminal world, it then hit me, okay, I've got to actually deal with this publicly. And so then I was able to work with police. How on earth could I use the police when I was afraid that they might find out what I did for a living? So that was a big process, a healing process, where I said to myself, connect. If I want to heal, I have to stop providing people the opportunity to poison themselves. So I put that aside. And again, maybe that was due to the medicine, where I just had more love for myself and more love for my community. And so then I worked with the police. We prosecuted, convicted this guy. And I went on about that was around 2013 or 2011. He was convicted in 2013. Since then, it has been a nonstop courtroom appearances, working with police, trying to inspire them to fix this massive problem in our community. And then about 3 months ago, the same woman who I connected with originally to do that first ceremony posted on her Facebook, I'm in Victoria. And that's where I live. I messaged her. I said, yo, you're in Victoria. What's going on? Let's get together. She said, awesome. Come on out to this house that I'm at. I'm here with a client. Maybe you can help facilitate. So I came out. We had a great experience. And I basically apprenticed under her, traveling around, doing my friends and family. I did my now second ceremony with her a couple days after reconnecting with her. And it was so profound that I didn't get up and do backflips. I felt like doing it, but I don't really do backflips anymore. My flipping days are over. I appreciate keeping my feet on firm ground and my head not banging around. But it was, again, such an amazing, loving experience that I said, listen, I want to make sure you do my friends and family. I want to get as many friends and family into ceremony with you as I can. And I traveled around with her doing these ceremonies, both as a facilitator and also like studying it. What's going on here when we're doing this stuff? And from what I've learned, or what I believe, is there are essentially 2 types of this ceremony. When you take in the medicine, or when you ingest the technology, when you are like in a super sensitive dream state. So in your dream, you're highly susceptible to sounds, smells, all kinds of stimulation. So within the 2 types of ceremonies is you could be with a very knowledgeable medicine man or medicine woman who knows to make the perfect sounds and knows to sing the perfect songs and really give you smells, light some sage, maybe touch your body in a particular way. These are all influences that can help guide your dream. The other type is to administer the technology and go in pure silence and darkness.
When you
As a medicine man now, if I'm ever doing this type of ceremony, I provide the opportunity, the option to have an eye mask on and earplugs so that you can do the medicine, lay down, and just go talk with your internal self.
when you
That can be tough because the less healing you do outside of ceremony, the more your dream is going to be a terrifying dream. And it's going to be scary for you. But you're always going to make it through. But the songs can help. The songs can help you hear that, you imagine you're just doing it by yourself. And because you have a lot of shame and guilt, your dream is demonic and you're in a horrible place. And then you hear something in the distance, a beautiful sound, a beautiful song. And you start remembering, oh yeah, it is. And you're feeling the love of the facilitators. You're feeling the love of those songs, and so that can help re-guide you out. And it's a real fine line between helping somebody, which is actually taking away from their own growth, and just letting them do it themselves and struggling through it. It's a very fine line. So if you have any other questions about that kind of stuff, you're more than welcome to talk. Yeah, please, bro. And cheers to that.
Yeah, absolutely. One interesting aspect that I've learned just kind of from observing and I think is right on in my ceremonial experiences. A lot of the time the facilitator will, if you need help, they're there. But in the most ideal sense of the word help, probably 90% of the time just coaching on breath work. Revert back to the basics, revert back to foundation, revert back to that deep breath or that rhythmic breath. It's the intent to not the intent to let the individual receive their healing, go through their healing process, not robbing them of that of that full process, and not robbing them of those tough, trying, a lot of the time difficult work that they're doing. That's a very, very interesting component, an interesting layer of technology that I've come to observe, and even to the extent of and again it's all personal conjecture, right? But I've come to that on that other end of the pendulum per se, where a lot of the time I say, hey, there is no bad trip. That's just a perspective that you have on a very tough time where you're confronting things that you don't want to confront, that that the demons are holding up the security checks, and I diligently always try to remove those perceptions and those barriers of of the bad trip, and always revert back to this this adjusted perspective of that reality per se, of no, it's just a trying time, it's just a challenging time, you're just becoming aware of of some reality that is needed. And instead of, that's another analogy that I always like about a lot of the plant medicines that I find pretty universal, is we spend life, we've got the object in front of us, we spend life trying to figure out how do we go around this object or this problem, and instead the medicine just helps us go through it. Somehow it's this immovable object in our reality, and the medicine and the technology always just opens us up to just pushing through that object or that problem, or and come through that healing. So I completely agree with that sentiment of the good facilitator will really know how to have patience and
when you
let the individual go through that healing process.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's so amazing is as humans, we carry traumatized DNA. There's no doubt about it. For those of us who are familiar with the Mayan long count calendar and the days and nights of Brahma, as the Vedics talk about it, or the precession of the equinox, in 2012, we just finished a 13,000 year winter. And in that winter, the devil and demons have power on earth. And then we switch over in 2012. Now we're back into the 13,000 years of summer. And so there's this really difficult process that we have being winter beings, where our surroundings are full of organizations and interests and agendas that have prospered in a time where death and destruction was given more power to serve its ultimate purpose of inspiring evolution. I heard about a world that was created where the gods made us, put us on earth, and it was summer all the time. And the gods left to go on their own vacation and then came back, and we were fat and very susceptible to predators. There is no reason for us to evolve on our own volition. So they said, okay, we got to make a winter here. We got to, put some predators in the environment because these guys will just sit on their ass all day in the sun. So we live in this environment where not only is the corruption and the evil so powerful, but it's also losing its power at the fastest rate it ever will. And apparently for about 250 years, when Pluto is the closest to planet Earth throughout this roughly 26,000 year cycle, it's a time of cleansing. It is our duty to transform from a winter being to a summer being. And so what a hippy-dippy, real out there ethereal process. What the heck does that mean? In my opinion, it means that every individual has to pay up their karmic debt. You lived in winter, maybe you had to lie, cheat, and steal to just make it through the winter. But we got to change and we got to transform, which means stopping our old ways and getting into the new ways, and just it's amazing that, of course, the gods and the angels who are now in charge and looking for human meat sacks to invest in to do their work in this realm, of course, they're going to give us help like these technologies. Of course, the good guys always win. The sun always comes up at the end of the night, And so I'm so grateful that people like us can connect and send our experiences, share our experiences with others, and the same way that there's a fine line with that facilitator between helping and letting them do their own thing, is also the should I do this or shouldn't I? Right? If you're researching and doing all this, I would actually tell people the less you know about what you're doing, the better, in my opinion, because that's how it happened for me. And then my process after the ceremony, in my mind, had nothing to do with the ceremony. It was more about the doing the actual things. And I was also less likely to rely on ceremony. I will say that I do not believe these types of technologies to be addictive because they are so profound in themselves that it's just to know that they exist and to have that experience is enough. You don't really want to go back to it because you're like, oh no, I know what work I have to do. I can sense the poisons in my life. I don't need to use that substance anymore. But we also, as humans, we like the idea that something outside of us can help us because it's easy. It's right there. That's why prescription pills and drugs are so prevalent, is because, the solution's right here. Here it is. It's not looking into the dark where things aren't as concrete. And so, if you're interested in doing this stuff and you feel a calling to do it or explore it, I would say that is your spirit saying it's time. And all the research you're doing is just simply helping you get to that point where you're like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to trust. I'm just going to do it. And so if you can just get there and be in that state, be like, okay, this is it. I'm doing it. Then just go do it. To hear about what other people went through and what the machine elves and all that stuff. I mean, maybe that's going on, but for you as an individual, the stuff that's going to happen is inside of you. And the less stuff you have that's going to be like, well, Jim's experience was like this, and Wegadesk got naked and did a backflip. All that doesn't matter. The biggest part about letting the technology do its thing is letting go. Right? That's the biggest part, is literally, like you say, that deep breath, the breathing. Yeah. And when you really let go, that's when the medicine and the technology really take over, in my opinion.
That is always the one core theme that I think that could be any plant medicine, any substance. I think that core theme that it always comes back to is us as humans are just naturally and inherently holding on tight to whatever it is, our struggles, our ideas, our conceptions, our traumas, and all we want to do is let go. But we don't know how. And unless you're consciously letting go, you're naturally holding on. And it's this yin and the yang that we live with constantly. And you always have the option or the choice or the conscious awareness of letting go at every new moment. And that's one thing that the medicine has taught me and has become my core intention, is just the continuing to practice the art of letting go. And that's personally how I end up seeing it manifest and bringing it back into life. Is I just went through this intense period of relearning and practicing letting go and what that looks like and how that manifests. And and now let's continue practicing. It's another moment, it's another day, it's another opportunity to let go and see how what kind of magic happens when you do that. And and I love that that you just mentioned that right now. I mean, do you mind if, and I think we closed this way earlier this week when we were chatting too. You mind if we close with a prayer?
Absolutely, brother. It would be my pleasure. Awesome. And I will tell the listeners that when I was in deep meditation, I was instructed to construct my emotional grid based off of the elements found in the physical universe. And from that Wingmaker's ideology of strengthening a connection through gratitude, I say this prayer every day, because no matter who you are, no matter what part of the world you are in, you have the earth, the air, the fire, the water, and the ether always with us. They are our elements. They're what make us up. And to just go about your day and have all this abundance and power and not acknowledge it is really, to say these prayers and connect with it is super important. So I'd love to end with this prayer. And after I'm done with my part, I'd like you to contribute too. Please and thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, Guardian Angels. Thank you, Prosperity Angels. Thank you to the angels that guide us to our best decisions. Thank you so much for bringing us together here today. Thank you so much for animating us. Thank you so much for encouraging us in the best direction possible. God, I wish to thank you so much for this amazing environment that we are in. And the most important, the earth. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for giving us so much. Thank you for this body that we have. Thank you for the strength and solidity that you bring to my experience. I am so grateful for the strength of my bones and the solidity and the foundation of who you are, as our entire life and universe is built on you, Mother Earth. Your strength and solidity, I cherish it. Thank you. Thank you, water. Thank you for allowing us to move so gracefully. Thank you for washing us clean every day. Thank you for quenching our thirst and bringing ease to this very hard world, water. Thank you for bringing your beauty, your gentleness, your love, and all the beautiful things you do, water. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Father Sky. Thank you, air. Thank you for this heaven on earth. Thank you for bringing such important nutrients to us so easily. Thank you for this heaven on earth and this protection around the earth that protects us from this crazy journey that we're in. Thank you, thank you, thank you, air, for this beautiful, beautiful heaven on earth and for letting the sun through. You, air, are so pure that you allow the sun's rays through from millions of miles away. So thank you for this protection and this ease and grace. And thank you, sun. Thank you, fire. Thank you for bringing light into our world. Thank you for our vision. Thank you for the warmth and the power. Thank you for guiding us through the cosmos as we travel and, go through the darkness of space. Thank you, sun, for showing us how to grow perfect as we are all growing up towards your light. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, ether. Thank you for allowing us to change and transform. For those of you who aren't so familiar with ether, ether is what all the other elements are before they become their element. Before water is water, it's ether. Before air is air, it's ether, and so on. And so imagine being an ether molecule, and God says, time for you to become water. You have to totally let go of being ether and just embrace it. You could go kicking and screaming, or you can say, no, I know God's going to make me the best water ever, and just become that thing. So, ether, I am so grateful to you for allowing me to change and become and reminding me of the transformation process and how to do that with the ease and grace of our inheritance as children of the greatest God ever. If you guys have any questions or doubts about who we are and what we're entitled to, take one look at the sun and tell me that that isn't the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And we get that beauty every day. That is how amazing our inheritance is. Please, Matt, talk to us.
Oh, man. Deep gratitude. Deep gratitude for your prayers, Wegadesk, and deep gratitude that I just want to express. Deep gratitude for all the plant teachers that share these wisdoms and these messages. Deep gratitude is all of life forms on this earth that are communing with us. Deep gratitude. Deep gratitude. Deep gratitude for all of the light carriers, everyone who has carried the light and carried these ancient wisdoms throughout time and held on and preserved these wisdoms and these cultures and traditions that we can learn from. And thank you to the cosmos for aligning all of the stars exactly the way that they are for us to be in this present moment exactly the way that it is. And thank you. Thank you to to the community. Thank you to our community and our platform, and thank you to all the generations of Reality Sandwich. Pay homage and honor those that served and those that stewarded this platform, this message, and this light. And deep gratitude personally for myself for being able to carry that stewardship and carry the light and the message, and deep gratitude for Wegadesk and for expressing and sharing and giving of himself so graciously for all of us today in this moment. And may that pay blessings 100 times over for you, my brother. And thank you to everybody who is listening. And now that we're an hour in, thank you to everybody who is listening to these prayers. Hopefully it warms your heart, and hopefully you're feeling the energy and manifesting that energy and carrying that light yourself. So yeah, closing with deep gratitude.
Thank you, Matt. Beautiful. I love you so much. I love all the listeners. Anybody who's tuning in, your angels have orchestrated this so that you are receiving all of the love that you deserve. Thank you so much, Matt. And I do want to let everybody know, I make myself available for people anytime. You can contact me. My name, Wegadesk, is on the bottom left. I don't know if that'll be on the recording, but my YouTube channel is Wega Paul. WEGAPAUL. No E at the end of that one, just Wega Paul. And please, I do lots of videos. I try to talk and let people experience, good things, whatever they need to hear. And yeah, you're more than welcome to contact me, wegadesk@gmail.com. I'm here to serve 100%, and I serve as best I can and very generously, as Matt does. Thank you, Matt, for bringing us in and putting me as maybe one of the slices of tomato in the reality sandwich. Thank you, bro.
Yes, absolutely. Mad ups and an appreciation. Whew. All right, let's close us down.